All right, I call to order the Friday, April 14th, 2023 CCS Circulation Technical Group meeting to order. I think I said that twice. Cool. The minutes were distributed with the email from last week with this meeting's agenda. Were there any corrections that anybody had for them? Okay. So hearing no corrections, we will assume that the minutes were approved as written and distributed. I did not have anything from you, Mieko, in terms of last minute additions to the agenda, but does anybody right now have anything that they want to add to the parking lot? Short and sweet, right on. Cool. So officer reports are up next. I have nothing to report. I didn't see if Athena was in here. She probably is. Does she have anything that she wants to report? Okay, hearing none. Tori, how about you?
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Look at us fly through this. All right, right on. So up next is the CCS staff reports. The next little bit of the meeting is going to be the Mieko show. I'm sure to her infinite thrills. So Mieko,
I look forward to my episode every month.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is pop the link to this meeting's sign-in sheet to the chat. Feel free to fill it out now, or as always, I'll send it out after the meeting so you can fill it out later if you want. Let me get my notes in order here. Okay, so I do have quite a few updates. We'll move through them pretty quickly. The first one is just a quick update about the Warren Newport migration. So CCS, Warren Newport Innovative, we're currently working on the library's migration to Polaris. We are going to time the offline period around Labor Day weekend to coincide with holiday closures again. So just like we did with the Grayslake Palatine migration. So like the next big step we've got coming up on Monday, actually. So on Monday, April 17th, Innovative is going to begin the test data load with Warren Newport's data into our training database. So this means the training database is going to be unavailable during this load through approximately April 28th. But the data load is going to help give us a better idea of what we can expect during the migration downtime. So with more details to come on the migration, we're going to talk about offline, both at the July Circ Tech meeting and we'll do our usual offline webinar leading up to the go live. In addition to Warren Newport, we have some more new member news. So if you haven't heard yet, Governing Board approved Mount Prospect's membership at their January meeting. So Mount Prospect, their membership will be effective November 1st, 2023. So you're not going to see them like listed on our library page or anything like that for a while yet. And their target go live is going to be fall 2024. So Warren Newport's going to go live fall of this year, and then early 2024 we're going to start working on the the Mount Prospect migration. So if you're counting, Warren Newport is our 29th CCS library. Mount Prospect will be our 30th member library. So we've hit the 30s. Yay. The next thing I just want to mention here is kind of a continuation of something we touched on in our last meeting, manually contacting patrons about lost items. So at the last meeting, we talked a lot about like lost item recovery. Some of the discussion was on manually contacting patrons about lost items. Because we've got a few libraries doing so or interested, we do want to take this topic to Circulation Interlibrary Loan Advisory Group for just like discussions on guidelines that manual contacting should follow. So if you do reach out manually to patrons for item recovery, if you could send me your process, your workflow before the end of May, and that way that will help like inform the advisory group discussion. So let's see. I have a quick INCOA update for everyone. We are going to be hosting office hour style drop-in Q&A session on Tuesday, April 18th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. So drop in during the hour if you have any questions about the INCOA process. I will be there. Bob will be there. We sent the link out through the Circ listserv yesterday. It's also posted on our website in the meeting calendar section in the event entry. And cool news from Unique, they have a price decrease. So they've always charged like $0.015 per patron record for review. They've decreased it to $0.01 per record. So I thought that was pretty exciting. It's like the one thing in our lives where the cost is actually going down. Quick update on the circulation department distribution lists. Still working on getting those set. Thank you for everyone who sent me emails. We did have to put a little pause on it just for timing things lately, but we're about ready to jump back in and start building the distribution list. So I will probably be reaching out if I don't have emails from your library soon. And then we'll get the information up on our website. I'll send out communication to the listserv when we're ready to like start using them. So watch for that stuff in the next month. And I think that was all the updates that I had.
Right on. And I don't believe we had any old business from the January meeting. So we'll move on to new business, kicking off with Circulation Tech Group elections. Yay!
So this is our last meeting of the fiscal year. As always, big shout out to our outgoing officers. So I want to give a huge thank you to Carrie for serving as our chair this year. She did a great job coordinating and leading these meetings.
Very timely in her emails.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unlike me.
No, Tori, we got to.
I admire that kind of organization. Don't deny it. Some of us have it, some of us don't.
A huge thank you to Tori too for serving as our secretary again. I don't know how many years it's been now.
Just two.
Tori pioneered integrating video timestamps into the minutes, so that was a huge
lazy.
So with that, Athena is our current vice chair, which means she's going to step up into chair position as of July 1st. So we need to take nominations to fill our outgoing seats. So we have a position open for chair-elect and position open for secretary. I just want to emphasize we do an orientation where we go over like what exactly you need to do and when to prepare for meetings. So you will not be going into anything blind. So let's start with the chair-elect position. So as chair-elect, you will serve 1 year as vice chair. Your responsibilities at that time will include like filling in for the chair at meetings if they're unavailable. And then the following year, you will serve as chair. So as chair, you will write up the agenda, send out meeting information through the listserv, and facilitate the meetings.
And for my 2 cents, whether this helps or hurts, Mieko's right. There is the orientation. It super helps. This was my first time being chair-elect / chair. And she made it as easy as possible. So for folks who may not have done it like me, it's not that bad. It's great. It's fine.
It's extra time with Mieko.
That probably
I made a
hurts the
personal
call.
question. Umiko, listen while I have you.
So hopefully that gave everyone a few more seconds to think about nominations. Would anyone like to self-nominate or make a nomination for chair-elect? It doesn't require too much time.
No, it doesn't.
I'll do it.
Dana, thank you.
Yeah, of
Awesome.
course.
I suppose we probably I should pass this along to Carrie for motion to accept second and like formal approval.
I make a
So-
motion for Dana to be the vice chair of the CCS Technical Circ Committee.
Okay,
Second,
nomination, first by Kim, and then who was the second? I interrupted.
Michelle.
someone.
Mayor
Michelle.
Edley.
Okay, second by Michelle. All those in favor of electing Dana as the chair-elect?
Yay, Dana, Dana.
Yay, cheer in the
Aye.
chat. Any opposed? Don't do it. All right, cool.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much,
Yay.
Dana.
Thank you, Dana. It's super,
And
Low
call anybody
stress.
if you have a question.
absolutely.
Everyone's so nice, so it'll be easy peasy. So thank you.
Okay, so the next position we have to fill is secretary. So no surprise here, secretary writes up the minutes for the meeting. When meetings are virtual, you do have access to meeting recordings as you work on minutes. When the minutes are in person, the officers will meet briefly after the meeting. That way we make sure you've got all the notes that you need, see if there's anything that needs to be clarified from the meeting. And then officers and I always like review the draft before anything's sent out to the group. So would anyone like to self-nominate or make a nomination for secretary? We have like templates you can use, so you don't have to recreate the wheel here.
I can do it, Miko. It's Anastasia at Park Ridge.
Anastasia, thank
right.
you.
Right on. So Anastasia is self-nominating.
I as the secretary be her first?
Yeah, I don't see why not, right? Yeah, so we have a motion for Anastasia as secretary from Tori. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Right on. Paula seconds that. So all those in favor of Anastasia as secretary, please say aye.
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 Eyes on chat.
Any opposed?
And if you're opposed, you have to do it.
That is the unofficial footnote rule in there.
Yeah, I would think.
All right, awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Dana and Anastasia win it in a runaway sweep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will reach out after the meeting through email just to schedule our officer orientation sometime in June. We'll be doing it virtually over Zoom, so it'll be low key. Have on your sweatpants. Okay, so moving on to the next one.
Yeah, looks like up next is the fiscal year 23-24 meeting updates with
Yeah.
Miko.
So this one, I am going to switch to some slides. Okay. So again, our last meeting of the fiscal year. So this means we are in the process of planning out our meetings for the following fiscal year. Still finalizing dates, but circulation will definitely still meet quarterly in July, October, January, and April. And we're going to start reintroducing in-person meetings. So we're going to do a mix of virtual meetings and in-person meetings next year. So this is what we've got planned out. So July meeting, it's going to be right in the middle of Warren Newport's migration training. So because of scheduling, we're going to keep it virtual. And then in October, we're going to meet in person. In January, we'll plan to meet virtually, anticipate the winter weather. And then in April, we will be in person. So we'll alternate between virtual and in person next year. So if you were at the ILL Tech Group meeting, you've already heard this. But CCS is getting our new office. It's going to be in Lincolnshire. So our in-person meetings next year will be held at the new CCS office. They've got some great meeting space there. So figure this first year, we'll take advantage of that. And then the following fiscal year, we can start talking about potentially doing host libraries again. So those will be our plans for next year's meetings.
Mieko, when I came into the meeting, you were just discussing, when are you actually moving in?
Our start date is June 1st.
Okay. Cool.
So I haven't seen the space yet, but it looks really, really nice from photos.
Yeah, well, we'll have to bring, little housewarming gifts.
The
Is it a new building?
I don't know how old it is. It's definitely one of those like multi unit buildings. So it's relatively large. There's going to be a lot of other businesses and organizations in this space. Parking is going to be a lot easier. You're not going to have that maze to go through like the old office. And I think because, there are so many other units in there, they have some amenities that our old place didn't have. So there's like a cafe area. So, when you do come for meetings, you can like run and grab snacks or coffee, I guess. So yeah, excited to see what it looks like. So plan for October for sure. If there's no other questions, I will move on to the next piece. This one should be pretty short. I just wanted to give you some more information about page note fields that we've learned recently. So we've found that the patron note fields have a character limit. They can support up to 4,000 characters, which is honestly, it's kind of a lot. So presumably this limit applies to both non-blocking note and blocking note fields, but we've only run into the limit with the non-blocking note field. Patrons just have significantly fewer blocking notes. I will say very few patrons are even close to getting to this limit. So we have like 500,000 patron records. There's only 30 that have note fields over 3,000 characters. So it's not something patrons commonly run into, but it's something that we should be aware of the longer we're on Polaris. So CCS is going to go through our documentation, note this limit where appropriate, like where we've got information about notes, just so the information is out there. And then in terms of like steps libraries can take to help avoid running into this limit, the first thing, just remove notes when they're resolved. If you have a note on there about a claims returned, once that claim is deleted, once that claim is found, go ahead and clear up that note. We also still have some some notes in patron records from our old Circe Dynex days. So if those are no longer relevant, you can go ahead and delete those. We have a web report called Legacy Patron Notes that will tell you the patrons who have notes and what the note is. And then the last thing is to just kind of like avoid formatting notes with lots of spaces or returns. Spaces and returns do count towards that limit. So, avoid doing things like lists, lists of items, lists of dates, that sort of thing. So like I said, 4,000 characters is, when you kind of like take a step back and look at patron data, it's a lot. I don't foresee us really running into an issue with this limit, but wanted to let you know, just in case. Any questions about notes? Well, in that case,
Nico, I do have something. This is Kim. I wondered, because you talked about NACOA, if we should consider, depending upon what it looks like, if not putting in the non-blocking note that patron's been verified from NACOA. I know that's an option for libraries, but something to think about it, because I've trained the staff to always look for those notes, and every time they open it, it's kind of like, oh, it's just NACOA versus, so just something to think about
Okay.
with the new webinar coming up.
yeah, okay, I'll bring that back to the group. Well, if there are no other questions about notes, I'll move on to, I guess, the big topic of the meeting, our report guidelines. So I sent out, or I said Carrie sent out a draft of the report guidelines that we are looking at. So I just want to give some context and background first. So a very common question we get, particularly from new libraries and new managers, is like, what reports should we use and how frequently? We have a lot of reports out there. And we don't really have information about what reports you should be using codified anywhere. Like we have some report adjacent activities like pulling for the pick list that are part of governing board policy. But there's a lot of other reports like those notice related reports where recommended usage is only noted in, say, a how-to page, or it's something unwritten but understood. So we don't have this information compiled in a single resource that we could point to when we get a question about like what reports should we use. So in the past couple months, CCS along with the CERC ILL advisory group put together some report guidelines. So I want to switch my screen real quick so we can take a look at them together. And let me get this. Okay. Well, you can see that now. Great. So the report guidelines. Our guidelines are divided into daily, weekly, and monthly use. And the guidelines tell you what report you should be using, where to locate that report. And for some reports, they're available in multiple places. Like, for example, you can view the pick list in LEAP, or you can print out the web reports version. So the guidelines give a summary of what action to take with the report, and then links to more robust how-to for each report. One recommendation that came from the advisory group was to indicate which reports should be prioritized. So if you are short-staffed and you don't have the capacity right now, like what reports should you be focusing on? So many reports here, again, are ones libraries are already using. So you'll see that all of those daily reports or report adjacent activities, like the pick list, print notices, unclaimed holds, and those undeliverable notices, those are, again, things that you're already doing, or things that are like in governing board policy. And then just to clarify, our definition of daily hasn't changed, right? We're generally speaking Monday through Friday. Our weekly reports include, let me scroll down a little bit, include like the in-transit overdue report and items with a status of claims report. So both of these are like shelf check reports. And then we also have a data cleanup report, this mismatch. This one is on here because improperly coded patrons can not only impact reporting and statistic, but it also impacts like holds fulfillment and potentially some online resource access. And then we also have the notice error reports on here just to monitor for spikes. In terms of the monthly reports, these are all cleanup reports. Most are tied to notices, cleaning up to make sure that patrons are set to receive notices and to flag patrons who have obvious errors in their phone or email fields. And then finally, at the end there, we have a financial cleanup report, and this ensures there's no oddities on patron accounts in the case of a financial audit at your library. So again, the reports that are listed as priorities, these are things related to governing board policy. These are ones that could impact intra-CCS loans or holds, or are ones that could prevent a patron from getting an overdue bill or notices. So that's how the priorities were determined. So those are the guidelines. So I would say this list definitely scratches the surface of what's available. And because of that, we also wanted to include some like curated lists of reports organized by like what kind of activity or information they support. So this second section here, the suggested report sections, it's not part of the guidelines proper. So these are not reports staff are expected to use. Instead, this list is meant to help point you in a direction. So like if you wanted information on like Polaris settings or staff users, like these would be some suggested reports that you could start with. So approved, we will maintain a page on the CCS website where we will keep the report guidelines.
Hope I can get in.
Change it, but do not.
Just gonna mute that. And then we will add a section to the circulation manual that references the guidelines and will link staff out to the web page. So those are the guidelines in a nutshell. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here. I do want to open it up for any questions or comments before we move into the action part of the topic.
Even though I know I'm not one of the more tenured circ managers here, but there were still reports on here that I'm like, yep, I've never heard of that one before. So this is really welcome for just little odds and ends that I was still missing.
So I was hoping to get this approved at today's meeting so that we would have it and not have to wait until July. Is that okay? Okay. If you want here, I'm just here, let me forward Uh, Anastasia, I am forwarding you the email just so you have the draft doc. If there are no other, I'm so glad. So I got a question, if approved, and someone like notices there's just some changes, is it possible to revisit this topic? Yes, so if there are like new reports that are introduced or some reports that maybe become no longer relevant, we will take any changes to the groups for approval.
What are the repercussions if we're naughty? Do you come slap us with a wet towel? Or can we not come to the new building?
Oh, there you go. Make you stand outside and look through the window.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
yeah, we'll forbid you a treat. I mean, I looked at it and I mean, yeah, the daily stuff pretty much was already yeah, we do that. And I'll admit some of the weekly I might not always get at. I'm pretty much good on the monthly, I think. But I don't see any real problem with it myself. So or I can dole it out to somebody else is a wonderful new responsibility. But yeah, I'm not seeing any real problem with any of those. Like you say, especially the ones that affect holds and things. That's why. And once you get through them and start checking them there, I've had a couple that once they started looking at them, now they hardly ever have anything on it.
Yeah.
That RBP matching and all that, I dove in, got rid of the first initial batch, and I've only had 1 or 2 at a time after that. So it doesn't take very long. So unless somebody sees something I don't see any problem. I have no problem with it. Or voting yes or yay or.
Gwen, to answer your question in the chat, that's one of the reports that we don't actually use. The staff member who does the billing, she does go and check the shelves at the time the bills are generated for that purpose. So she is a little late on the purpose of that report, but that's one that we just didn't use. So
there was a chat about how often other libraries use a daily search shelves to check the soon to be billed items. So go ahead and throw a response in the chat if you use that report and how frequently. If there are no other questions or comments, I will turn this over to Carrie.
Hi, Miko. I just have one quick thing. I just feel like maybe summer reading should be considered a little bit, like some of these weekly reports. You know, I feel like sometimes things get pushed off for like 12 weeks during summer reading. How much really is this accountability going to be for the weeklies?
Honestly, so the ones that are governing board policy are the ones that are like the rules. And those are like a lot of daily ones, the pick list, unclaimed holds, that sort of thing. For the other ones, I think the guidelines are meant more like, here's our best practices. If you can't get to the ones, if you don't feel like you can get to the reports, the priority reports are listed out. If it's a really terrible time, like we're not, how do I put this? I'm not gonna like monitor and pursue people, if that makes sense.
Tori will.
Um,
Tori will come and stand outside your library.
Um, so I think that the guidelines are just meant like, here's our best practices. If you have extenuating circumstances, and the non-policy ones can't be handled this week, catch up when you can.
I've had people send me notes and stuff sometimes when there's something that was a particular concern to them. The library will say this item's on the something list, can you move it along? Or, and I'm happy to do that because sometimes we just miss it, or somebody's out for a week and nobody bothered to go in and look at the list, so we just miss it. And so if somebody, I mean, that's my suggestion to any of you, if there's something on a list I haven't gotten to and you'd like me to make a move on it, because sometimes you can't do anything until someone else on the other end does. So feel free to let me know. But yeah, sometimes we'll miss a weekly thing every now and again because somebody's out or got to pass it on, and everybody seems to survive it.
I can just jump in. I think the one that's like super important is the unclaimed list at all the libraries, because sometimes, you know, I check up on Park Ridge items that are unclaimed at other libraries and, you know, they're unclaimed for 2, 3, 4 months and they're still, you know, showing as an unclaimed hold on the hold shelf. So I think that one is super important. We can all work together just because it is, you know, other libraries' materials. And I do think it's helpful, you know, a lot of times follow up the patron, make sure that, you know, they don't have it, they forgot to check it out or something. Just, you know, for me, I think that's probably the most important one, is like a team, you know, that we can all try and make sure we do every day.
And that's the one that I was trying to get better at for our library. And Mieko, you would probably know. Is there a hard number for the unclaims? Because I know some libraries may be a little more forgiving before they contact the owning library or the held library before they're like, hey, can you send it back? Is there hard and fast on that? Or is that just at the individual library's discretion before they contact?
Well, I would check, let me pull up our how-to. If it's like a missing on hold shelf situation, just see if we have anything under those procedures.
As to exactly that point, summer reading, people are sick, whatever. It's like, if it's 2 days unclaimed, I'm like, yeah, they're going to get to it. But like Anastasia says, if it's 2 months unclaimed, it's like, hello, can we?
So if you are unable to find a hold, like a hold on your hold shelf, missing on hold shelf, so if the pickup library is unable to locate like an unclaimed item, they're supposed to contact the owning library within 14 days to see if it's at their location. So I feel like that's reasonable for like you own an item, you just want to check in with the pickup library.
I know we also talked about the in-transit report. That's 14 days after it was put into transit. I think that's one of the reports because a lot of those could be holds that a patron is waiting for. Something to consider is another priority would be like the in-transits. Depending upon your library, maybe they're not as many as you think. Typically, we do them on Thursday. They're given on Monday because half the time some of the libraries have the capability of doing them. So just something to think on that end too, especially if you have a patron waiting for material. And it could be a summer reading book that they have to read.
That's the same for us, Kim. And I know I've said it a while ago at a meeting, just due to the delays in delivery, sometimes that item that's been 14 days in delivery on that Monday report by Tuesday, it's suddenly there. And so it's like not wasting your time on it, but managers can then also, because the report says, is it going to a patron or is it just returning home? You can individually prioritize getting a hold back into transit versus something that's just trying to find its way back to the shelf.
And it might get checked out too, because it's a hot item and then you're even more excited it dropped off your, your shelf for your report.
I hope that I help alleviate some stress over potential of the reports. Any other questions or comments?
Do we need to do a motion in a second, or is this just a group approval?
There'll be a motion in a second.
Okay, let's see if I can get the terminology right on this. Do I have a motion to approve the circulation report guidelines presented by the governing board as written?
That sounds good. I'll move.
Got
I'll
Tor-
second.
Motion,
Tori will so move.
and I heard a second maybe,
And Prospect Heights.
and seconds. Thank you
Ann, okay.
guys. All those in favor of approving the, oh my gosh, I already forgot the circulation report guidelines as written, please say aye, or in the chat, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Any opposed? Eyes are pouring in. Awesome. So the circulation report guidelines as written by the governing board have been approved. And Mieko, you said that at the very least by the July meeting, they will be.
Well, they are pretty much ready to go.
Okay.
So I'll post them up on the website and update the circulation manual. And I'll send that information out to the Circ listserv when that is all set.
Very cool. So then we will continue moving on with new business. It's me for a couple of ones and very timely. I did not add this agenda item knowing that we were going to talk about the report guidelines. This is just a report I've tried to run and did not have much success with it. Old holds. I know the purpose of it is to see what's causing something to languish as a hold for a long time, but I keep running into the problem of our patrons place holds on like hot movies literally the second they're available, and so it's old but it's an unreleased item. I was just curious how other libraries utilize that hold, how you parse out what's actually old versus just not available, or if you found it not as useful as some of the other reports on that guidelines list that we looked at.
So this is Paula. I use the old holds report because sometimes our reference librarians find an item and it might be in repair, it might be missing. They just grab the record that the patron, it's related to the item the patron wants, and they don't check to make sure there's actually an available copy. And so I go through those to make sure that there's something, there is an actual live item. And if there's not, then I do an OCLC request for those items. And some of them are, like you said, the minute they're on order, people put holds on them, and they're copies that don't circ outside our library. And so that's, I do those. I find the appropriate records if there are any. And if we don't have it in CCS, then I go outside. And depending on how long your list is, it can take a long time, but if you split your screens and copy and paste, it's not so bad. But it's a good tool. I will say that.
Thank you for sharing that, because I use the weekly no eligible items for hold record, or excuse me, report, and it kind of sounds like you use that in tandem with it, because that's exactly why I use the no eligible items report. It's so its stuff doesn't sit and rot. We can do an OCLC request on it, but that's reaffirming to hear that it does take a while. And I assume some of the stuff that you just see over and over and over again, it's like, yep, that's it's a movie that's coming out. That's skip, skip, skip. So thank you, Paula. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Anastasia, you said you do the same at Park Ridge. Okay. Apparently this is also a report not a lot of people use, or they're just like Carrie, just use the report like it's written. But no, I appreciate that.
We go through it periodically and
Yeah,
knock it down and work on it when I've got somebody who has the time to do the researching out and checking it. Because like they said, sometimes it'll be resolved if you just go at it another way. And other times you're like, the person doesn't even want it anymore.
right,
And they just never got rid. That's why they haven't been bothering you about it.
right.
So they're, oh, just cancel that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it ends up not, but it's finding somebody who has time to do it along with some of the other lists are more important for us to move along certain things. Most of these people end up not being that upset about it. So you kind of stick with the ones where you know they're going to be hollering at you faster. So yeah, I try not to let it get too big. We hand it off to somebody when it starts to fill up a little bit.
Thank you.
Those dailies, the daily reports of the ones where, you know, they're about to be billed, the 2 week or 4 week or 6 week. And I've got somebody who checks out 15 or 20 children's books at a time. You start to go, I bet this is all Mrs. Dickinson, you know, so we kind of get wrapped up when we're trying to do those, and that makes these harder. So yeah, that one we do not as frequently, but we try to make a pretty good dent when we do.
Oh, that's good to know. And I didn't even say that on. Oh, it was on the circulation guidelines. But yeah, it was just under managing holds. Okay, not a weekly or a monthly or a. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate folks. If anybody else has any more insights on it, please feel free to email me. Like I said, I'm trying to. It all came together in this meeting for report monitoring. On the next agenda item as well, just curious, now that all of us are tracking failed email notices, I know some libraries were doing it prior, but I just wanted to know if folks have seen any patterns or what. My example was it's all Verizon users for us, like 100 without exception. And we occasionally get repeat notices saying they failed on patrons that I already removed the notification option for text. And so that might be like a question for you, Mieko. It's like, why did that still come through? So I was just curious how folks were monitoring that. Oh, okay.
All I've noticed is that it might be a new carrier. So we need to go in and change the carrier. We just give them a call and ask for their new carrier.
And that's what Jeffrey said it well at Morton Grove. Okay. Right on.
Yeah, I've had a couple where they weren't getting, but they were showing up to pick up their stuff because they were getting the other the email notification. But they really liked the text. And then I found out, yeah, 2 of the 3 of them had changed their carrier. And once we did that, they stopped coming through.
This is Donna at Indian Trails. Most of ours are failed emails. But when we reply, it works. So I'm not sure how they were failed emails. So
The emails match what you have the account and they're getting other things.
yeah, so I'm not sure what's happening or
It's not putting them in their spam or junk.
no, because they're replying to actually replying to us.
I had a patron who forwarded their emails to another email address.
Oh,
It-
okay.
That came up, and the only reason I found it is I couldn't find the email in the system. And when I scrolled farther down, the original email address that was in the system was there. So I'm wondering, you may be replying to the good email, but in fact, it's actually the bad emails further down in the system. That's one of the things. And another thing that is just kind of, when you have a family who uses the same email or phone number, it's kind of nice to be able to look at that account to see if you maybe misspelled a name or they have a different carrier, or then you can change them all when you get in touch with them, because the biggest one we had was the carrier issue.
But this is Indian Trails. We're just having a problem with one member. I put in a ticket who's not getting her texts. She has the same carrier I do, works perfectly fine for me. We're not sure what is going on with her, so I did put in a ticket with the member's barcode. We went through the phone number's right, everything. She was getting them until the server till you redid the server, and now she's not.
So I sent a response to your ticket with some things to help try to troubleshoot. So what we can see from our end, and this is both in the situation Donna said, and I think a lot of these situations is we are able to tell if an email was successfully generated and sent from our servers. Once it goes beyond that, we can't tell what a provider does with that message. So like Tori was mentioning, they could send it to spam, they could flag it. So with the bounce notices, what could happen is that something cannot be delivered at the moment, but then it's accepted later on. And that's when you get those situations where you get the bounce notice, but the patron ends up receiving the email in the near future. And unfortunately, that's not something that I think that the library is able to control, that CCS is able to control. A really good reminder from Anastasia, consumer cellular users need to contact the provider to see what network they're on. There are definitely, I don't know if there's any others besides consumer cellular, but consumer cellular piggybacks on multiple networks. They don't have their own. So it's patron may not know what network they're on.
And I think it was maybe Deborah at a couple of CERC meetings ago who said a good shortcut to determine what a carrier is have that patron right there, send an email to your general CERC email address via text, and then right away you'll be able to see what the carrier is. Just for folks who were not here during that meeting, that blew my mind. It was a super helpful tip.
That's a really good tip.
Wait, I'm sorry. Will you say that again, Carrie?
Yeah, for sure. So if you're helping a patron and they don't know their carrier, you can
Right.
ask them to text like CERC at email.com, and that email that you get from them will have their phone number and the domain should be their carrier. So you can determine it for them right there versus them having to go and be like, who am I?
So if they send a text to the email that we use for notices.
Yes,
Oh.
it should be phone number at vtex.com. Exactly.
That is a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Yes. When Deborah said that, I'm like, golly, that's.
I must have missed
exactly-
that meeting.
No, super helpful. Cause then, yeah, as Anastasia said, most folks are like, I just have a cell phone and that's it. And I live in an old enough time period. I've had Verizon for 17 years. It's like, oh yeah, people do change carriers all the time. That did not even cross my mind.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. And
So, oh, sorry. I was gonna read this question from Ben. Why does carrier matter? So carrier matters because our text messages, the text message notices start out as an email address, and they have to go through what's called an SMS gateway to be converted into text messages. And every carrier basically has their own gateway. So in order to get the message to the patron, we need to know the carrier so the text can be addressed correctly.
so Mieko, I said it, but I kind of glossed over it. Do you know why then someone who I did remove the text notifications completely from their account, why we would still be getting bounced emails saying it wasn't delivered? Am I missing something else as a notice option?
So you've taken out the checkbox for like the additional text notice.
Oh, I answered my own question. They have their
okay.
main notice option as text notices. That makes sense. I was like, why is that doing that? Disregard. Go Ben asked follow-up. Sierra didn't seem to have that issue. Is that unique to Polaris for text notices?
I'm not familiar with how Sierra works. I had a question of, is there a reason one of the options under wireless carrier is unspecified? I can check on that to see, look at the configuration. And I had another direct question here about could anything be related to when there's an issue when reports don't run correctly? If reports or notices on the Polaris end don't run correctly, those would be like considered failures. So those wouldn't even be sent out from our servers. If that, hopefully that makes sense. Note.
Okay, it's me again. Sorry. I was just testing what you said. You said they should email? But
So just
Yeah.
in their messaging,
so in their
app.
messaging app,
they make a new email, excuse me, a new text message thread. And so you would just send it to,
in
So-
our case, notices at phpl.info.
yeah,
And then, okay, so I just did it. So theoretically, since I get those emails, I should receive my email. Okay, but I haven't. Okay, it's probably just some email things. Okay, thank you.
Mieko, wasn't there a point when you asked us to try to correct a check with text messaging?
Yeah,
What
there
was that?
That was if the patron has their primary notice preference sent to text and then also has the additional text notice checkbox.
Check. Okay, so if it's email and the text is checked, we're okay. It was the text and text.
Yeah, there was something about that configuration that
I couldn't remember what we had done. I thought, well, maybe it's something in that I'm supposed to be doing. No, I did those. Okay.
Yeah, Miyako, this is Donna, the one ticket with, the same thing with the same lady, remember she, the same thing, she had text message, so I changed it, so hopefully she'll get them now, but,
Okay, good.
yeah, I didn't realize that, so, but she was getting email too, which was kind of weird, so. Her emails will go through, but she prefers text.
Okay.
So hopefully it works now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Keep me updated on that.
yeah, I'll see if she says anything or whatever, or reach out to her.
So I'm, just for Anne and for whoever else, if this works, I'm gonna post a screenshot in the chat. Everyone can have my personal cell phone number, but that's what the email should just look like for folks who are curious. I just sent it to our library notice, and so just if you
Oh, I see.
questioning that.
Cool.
I have a question, because you know how we're using our unique emails for the email domains. So we get two different emails, and one's just a blank one that says email notices will be sent from the server. Is that just like letting us know that we're gonna be pushing out notices?
Can you forward something to me? I will
Sure.
check in with RIT on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was when we changed over. Deborah had sent it in our ticket. It's a standard that it gets sent first and then it closes it out, I think, as a loop, if I remember correctly, because I get it. Anastasia, I can send you the email she sent with the language if that's helpful.
Thanks. Yeah, that'd be helpful. I figured, but I was just like, oh, I'll ask because we're curious. All right, thanks.
Thank you to everyone humoring me, answering my questions. Does anybody have any other notices related questions that they want to ask?
This is Donna at Indian Trust. I came in a little late from another meeting, but we usually do this for the print notices, staff, client, utilities, reports and notices, but they're not showing up like they used to, and they're not printing properly either. So I'm wondering what happened that way, or should we be using the LEAP utilities print notices?
Should be able to do both still.
Yeah, I put in a ticket for it.
Yeah,
Really,
I hope you got my response to that ticket. I have not heard from other libraries about issues. Pausing to see if anyone else has noticed anything. I know it's opening up in, at least for me, it's opening up in Edge now instead of Adobe.
yeah, both Rosa and I are not, do we see the same thing? So,
Yeah, well, after the meeting, make sure you got my response and then we can continue to troubleshoot through the ticket.
okay. Thank you.
Cool. So we'll move on to the last agenda item. Anastasia had a question about license plate renewals.
Yeah, I was just curious if anyone has started this service, and if so, is it popular? Anything I should know about? Like, can you enter something wrong and someone's registration is gonna be wrong?
Anastasia, we started it about at the beginning of the year, just after the new year. Patrons are happy when they realize that we have the service. We haven't done, I think we've done a total of 6. You need to know about the circuit, or not circuit breaker. Well, they call it a couple things, but they should probably teach you that when they train you, although they didn't teach us that. That the certain folks, lower income folks, can qualify for a program through Secretary of State. They have to apply for it, and then they can purchase their vehicle sticker for $10 versus, I think, 151. Or their license plate sticker. It's hard to make a mistake because it all like communicates back to the Secretary of State's office. So it's not going to populate the thing properly if you guys screw something up, I think. So it's pretty, it's fine. It took a lot of staff training, and staff were very nervous that they're going to screw something up. They're still nervous, but I reassure them it's fine.
And who do you guys use?
ELS.
That was the other one I couldn't think of.
Yeah. And I will say, they're super responsive. So if I have a problem, they're like on it immediately. And they say, you call us anytime, in the middle of the transaction, if you're having a problem, call us. And so.
Hey, thanks, Ann.
Sure.
Mine's going to sound really similar to Ann's, but we use SSLT. It's really hard to make a mistake for us. If you enter anything wrong, it stops you very hard. You're not allowed to progress. The biggest issue we had was setting up a way to accept payments, because you could do the whole process through the web browser, but it doesn't have, like, you're not putting the payments through that. So we had to set up like a separate card to accept credit card payments. It's literally the only reason we still have a cash register to accept cash payments for it. We just use an in-house card and just charge it like that. Our business office knows that's what it is. It's $158.50 unless it's overdue, or a truck or a trailer, or the benefit access number through the Department of Aging. And my staff were also really nervous at the time because they were under the impression that it's like, if I make a mistake, it's $150 mistake. And it's like, no, like, you send the sheets back to whoever you use. You're only responsible for that payment if you lose a sticker. So that was the heavy emphasis to staff. It's like, just don't throw these away, because that's where the money actually is attached to. But SSLT sounds similar. They're super responsive. We got the owner's personal cell phone. He answers the calls at all hours.
Is he the guy that said, if I'm out on a boat in the middle of the lake fishing, you can call me? Because I think I talked to
Mike
him.
Sandlin is our
Yeah,
guy.
It might have been him.
Yeah,
Pretty funny.
He's super helpful. Steph at SSLT knows me probably more than she wants to, just because she's troubleshooting things for us. We average one a day, and we've been doing it since December 2019. People
Thanks,
really
Mary.
love it.
I actually put a little PowerPoint together for my staff. So, when they freak out and I'm not here, they could just look at it on the screen. I can send it to you if you want, Anastasia. It'll just walk you through what we do. And we use Square to process
you.
the charges.
That'd be great, thanks.
Sure.
This is Donna at Indian Trails. We don't have that, but I have a question. What happens if they need new plates when they come in? Because that happened to me when we didn't know that the form doesn't say that. So, and we're still waiting for the plates.
Here's what happened, because that did happen to us. So what it does, the system does, it'll print a temporary sticker and it will inform the patron that the state has your plates, they're making you new plates right now, and they're gonna send you new plates with a sticker. But they still need to pay for that temporary sticker, but it just prints a T on the sticker.
Okay, okay.
And I will, Carrie, have you had any issues with, I had a patron, actually it was one of our staff who purchased the ticket or the sticker through us. And she said that when she put it on her plate, like she was really rubbing it onto the plate, and some of the like ink was coming off, but it was a laser. So it shouldn't actually be, I don't know. I was like,
No,
"Ooh,
I have not heard that instance
Okay.
before. That makes me sweat a little bit.
a little right? Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Okay.
No.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pisra. I'm sorry, I don't know you guys hear me. Yeah, okay, so I'm new to the circulation coordinator. So we also have S&S as same with Carrie. So lately we just have an issue with setting up the margin to print it out. So it seems like you have to be exact in the square, or else it's gonna be, miss that, and then we have to reprint. Yeah, that's what we have issue. So we just start last year, the beginning of last year. So we have about over 100 so far. So yeah.
The
Thank
margins
you.
are also, oh, go ahead, Anne.
I was just saying, thank you.
Yeah, the margins are also in our, it's in the back of our procedures manual because of exactly like you said, Anne, in case people are like, what do I do? It's like, it's all there, even the margins, because when we first started out, stickers are on the sheets. So if you print it offside, it's like, it's bad. 2022 was nice because all the 2023 stickers were on a roll. And so you didn't have to worry about printer margins. You could just slap it on a piece of paper and be like, here you go. But we are back to the sheets. So
One thing that we did is I have a dedicated printer for those. Nothing else gets printed on that printer. So nobody messes with settings or.
yeah, that would also be my recommendation, Anastasia. If you guys do that, we literally dug a printer out of the closet and was like, yep, this is the license plate one. Here you go. Oh, okay. If no one else has anything to share on license plates, consider it if you aren't already. It actually brings in a lot of people that forgot the library existed. It's a lot of non-patrons, to be honest. They're just like, oh, here we are. It's a cool service. And that's it for the new business. I did have on the agenda just a little section for library announcements. If anybody, new staff, cool things going on that they wanted to share with the group.
I do, Chris here in Zion. We start construction on April 24th. So we might have some late openings, some closings. So we'll keep everybody posted. Paula and I are super excited. We're tackling a crack in the floor is what started this. So we're getting a refresh, which is amazing.
Lake Forest has a new director starting May 1st. I cannot pronounce his name yet. I'm practicing. It's kind of hard. It's got a lot of letters. He sent us a really nice voicemail of him doing it. It's very, but I'm still working on it. And he'll start May 1st.
We had an announcement in chat. Congratulations to Jan, who is going to be the circulation assistant department head at Round Lake.
This is Kim from Wilmette. We have launched our open 24/7 lockers outside of our building with Biblioteca. There's 39 lockers that any patron can come in and use, open 24/7. We're getting used to the process of how it's all done. So if you ever want to come out and see them, you can get in touch with us, and we'd be more than happy to show you how they work.
Kim, did you say it was how many? Like 30?
So there's 39 of them. So it's a double bay system with small, medium, and large lockers. They are basically, if you have a Biblioteca 500 or 1000 checkout, they look exactly like that, is how to use them. So. And they're wireless. So if you had like a park, or they have Wi-Fi ability to be a hotspot. So if you have a park out in your community that you would like to put something there, maybe it's a dead zone. That's also nice about that too.
Okay. And it's the one you've got is right by the building or near the building?
It's attached to the building in the parking lot. It's on the north side.
Okay, cool. Cool.
All right. There are no other announcements that folks want to share.
I
Yeah.
have one more thing. There's been some changes at Algonquin.
Oh,
Yeah. So Belinda is moving into administration. Gary retired, if you did not hear. And we have, I want to make sure I say your name correctly. Just, please go ahead.
Pisara.
Pisser. Okay, thank you.
Thank
So happy to have you.
you. Nice to see everyone.
yay.
So Pisser is going to be the circulation coordinator at Algonquin. So yeah.
And diving right in first meeting. Way to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I think we are good to move towards adjournment, getting those vibes. The next meeting, like Mieko said, will still be via Zoom, Friday, July 14th at 9:30. Before we move into in-person, it'll be the first in-person one that we've had in a while. But may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
I'll motion.
Tori motions. May I have a second?
I'll second. Anne from Prospect Heights.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I was like, Ann didn't pop up. Okay, so I have a second from Ann. All those in favor of adjourning our meeting, say aye.
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 Lots of eyes.
Want to hang out?
Eyes and bye-byes.
Ayes and bye-byes. We are adjourned at 10:50.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Great job, Carrie.
Have a great
you.
weekend, everybody.
Thank you, Dana and Anastasia again.